Hello, good evening, very welcome back everybody. Good to see so many people here again. Quick sound check guys, you know the drill, give us a quick yes, hello in your question box. Hi Miranda, Ryan, Beverly, and out there as well. Felicity again, sound is fine. Hi Faraz, Francis, Dupala, Tiffany Bynum out there. Excited for today's lesson, says Dupali. Very good, as is myself. I enjoy this lesson actually. Hello Amina, Lama, Felicity out there too. George Underwood, how are you again? Joy Tristan, Elsa. Okay, lots of people joining us again. Few people just coming in the door there now, so you're very welcome. Get on board. Yes, Sarah out there too. You're all very welcome. Okay, guys. And a quick update too for all our toolkit users out there. If you check your toolkits, guys, as well, if you have them for today's lesson, they will be helpful to you. And also to let you know, you will now have a brand new bonus video in your toolkits too, where I teach you basically how to create the Apple logo actually using Illustrator. Nice, simple, straightforward tutorial, but quite beneficial to you as well, of course. And then I also go through understanding and manipulating text in Illustrator too. So just a quick update for all your toolkit users out there, that video should now be in your members area. Okay, so lesson 5. Today we are going to be introducing our Illustrator, excuse me. I was getting mixed up myself. Before that though, I want to do a quick color theory recap. And we're going to explore colour specifically as it applies to logos as well, guys, and how it can be such an influence on our senses when it comes to logo design. And then we're going to be opening up Illustrator, a quick tour, and creating just a simple logo for today, guys. But hopefully it should give you lots and lots of ideas as you're moving on then as well, okay? Okay, so before we are continuing as well, just a second, some questions coming through. Krista says, cannot find my toolkit on the website. If you log into student area, Christo, there will be a button there for you to click, and you can purchase your toolkit from there as well, and then it will open up all of those resources as well. And of course, once your toolkit will be there available for you forever and ever, by the way. Okay. So before we continue, everybody remember, of course, our primary colors. Just a quick recap on this. Everyone remembers those? Yay, everyone remembers those. Good stuff. Moving on then to our secondary colours. These are what we get where we of course mix our primary colours together. We then moved on again to our tertiary colours. Again, we mix them a little bit further. And then just remembering our sort of colour systems like our complementary. Our contrasting, sometimes called contrasting, will sit opposite each other on the color wheel, and then we have our what we call analogous color systems. I just want to keep these in mind as we are progressing through today's lesson too as well, guys. Okay. Okay, so everyone's happy with that. Everyone remembers those. Alan says the Illuminati color wheel. Not too sure about that, but fair enough. Okay, just a second now as well, guys. Okay, so before we continue on, so understanding color is a big one, all right? Because color basically it's a major part, when we talk about branding especially and in logo design, color plays a major part in the correct reflection of your brand. Now, this might seem pretty obvious, but things to remember are, color doesn't discriminate, okay? So no matter if you're designing a brand for yourself or maybe a small company or even a huge corporation, the effects of color will not discriminate on you based on, for example, how much cash you have or how large or small an organization you are. So when we look at color options for your brand or for others' brands, it's a good idea, to get a clear idea of how these color schemes play a part on the perception, play a part on the brand perception, because color is the most influential element on our natural senses. Followed then, for example, by shapes, by symbols, and lastly words. And again, you'll see where this comes through now in just a few minutes as well, guys, okay? Nikki Hayes is asking, will the slides of this session be available in the student area? The slides are available in your toolkits, Nikki, so if you've purchased your toolkits, they are in there right now. Okay, so as I said, guys, color is the most important, or is the most influential element on our natural senses, followed then by shapes, symbols, and lastly words. And we're going to put this to the test now. We're going to have a little bit of fun today, for example, guys. Have a little bit of fun. And we're going to see if this actually rings true. So here we're going to look at how brands use color. Now you notice I'm just working, by the way, off our primary colors just for this part. So our red, yellow, and our blue there, along with sort of grayscale or black and white also. So here we're going to have a look at how brands use color. This is a study of the top 100 brands, the world's top 100 brands. I think it was Forbes actually conducted this study, okay? So of the top 100 brands in the world, how many of them do you think use the color blue in their logo or in their branding? Any ideas? Give me a quick estimation. They're about 40, says Nickel, about 40, 70%, so many, okay, I'll put you out of your misery. It's around 33% use the color blue. It is the predominant color used in logos and brand identity, okay? Moving on then, we have about 29% or so use the colour red. If we talk about sort of black or grayscale then, we've around 27% or so, sort of monochromatic, either black or white or grayscale. And then finally, I guess if you can do your maths, that leaves in around 11% or so then that use yellow. But what I find more interesting is this, that 95%, that is a huge number, 95% only use one or two colours. Okay, so bear that in mind when you're designing your own logos too. Llama is asking me, why blue? It is proven, Llama, that both males and females, blue is their favourite colour. It's the predominant colour amongst both males and females. After the colour blue, it does discriminate a little bit then. For example, females much prefer sort of lilacs and purples, whereas males go for the more sort of stronger sort of greens and things like that. But blue for both sexes is the predominant favourite colour, okay? So, like I said, 95% use only one or two colours. And, you know, bear this in mind when you are creating your own brand or your own logos. Only about 5% then, of course, will use more than two colours. This is quite interesting as well though. Of the top 100 brands in the world, 41% use just text, okay? So there's no little icon or iconography, okay? It's just text, the brand is just text. And then 9%, very small percentage, 9% don't feature a company name. Now, we can all think of them, but you can imagine you need to be a pretty strong brand not to even include your company name in your logo, okay? We can think of a few, things like Apple and things like that, of course, but trust me, you know, you need to be a very strong brand. But what you need to take from this is this. Colour can increase brand recognition by up to 80%. I'm going to repeat that because it's a huge statistic. It can increase brand recognition by up to 80%. So this means that colour influences how customers view the personality of the brand. Basically, our brains prefer recognizable brands, whether we like it or not. So this makes colour a key factor in creating that brand identity. Alright, so we're going to continue now and put some of this theory to the test and see if we, as users, and I'm a user too, see if we can recognize the top 10 brands just from colour alone. And then we'll decide if the chosen colour is appropriate for that brand. Okay, everyone with me so far? Everybody happy so far? Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, so just a little bit of fun now, guys. Let's have a look. Let's take a look. Here I have basically the top 10 brands as decided by their colour as well, guys. Okay, guys, just bear with me for 1 second again. Just having one or two technical issues. I'll be back to you in about 10 seconds. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that, guys. Do apologise. We're back there now again. So let's have a look. Basically, we have the top 10 brands as described by Forbes. All right. So have a look at the first one. What do we reckon, guys? Sort of basically all black. What do you think this is? Yeah, everyone coming through there straight away. It is, of course, Apple. Yeah, without a doubt, it is, of course, the Apple. Okay, obviously one of the most famous logos ever created, the old bitten apple. And actually created by a guy called Rob Janoff, an American graphic designer. And it's an interesting logo to look up, actually, guys, if you have the time to do that too as well. But here we have the colour black. Now, they've obviously gone through iterations over the years. They started off with, well, it was a different logo completely at the start. But when the Apple logo itself was introduced, it was obviously multicoloured to represent the birth of colour in IT and information technology. But since they've gone back now to a more monochromatic system. Okay, and basically this, any ideas why? Any ideas why they've gone back to this sort of system? Because when we think of black, essentially, okay, black is used by companies to wish, or to evoke a sort of a classic sophistication and simplicity. Of Christopher Ells is saying there, yeah, it's essentially basically simplicity and sophistication. It is, of course, timeless. So black works well for brands promoting luxury. So when we think of black, we think of prestige, of value, of timelessness. I mean, all of my female friends out there, if I was to ask you what is the one essential piece of clothing you will have on your wardrobe, they will all say the old little black dress. So of course, there's a reason for that. It's timeless and it's sophisticated. So look at number 2 then, our second one along. Number 2 and 3 are quite similar. Any ideas? Number 2, Windows. It is indeed Microsoft Windows, of course. Very, very good. Okay, here we have sort of 3 different colors posted together. Basically, they're intended to represent the sort of diverse portfolio that Microsoft has. So all of their products, all of those colors said to represent their more diverse portfolio. Number 3 then, obviously if you got Microsoft, everyone is going to get number 3, which is Google, of course. Again, using lots of different colors here, okay, just, to give a more to get lots of viewers in, to represent the diverse nature of the company too, and of course, Google, what it does. Okay, so number 4 then, this is straightforward too, yeah, everyone's going to get that. This is unreal. Getting a few YouTubes, Vodacom, Virgins through there, but 90% of you are coming through with Coca-Cola. This is basically, it's working, guys, okay, this is obviously working, okay. Again, Coca-Cola, very interesting logo. It's actually designed by John Pemberton's bookkeeper. He's John Pemberton, who invented Coca-Cola, of course. John Pemberton was actually, or not John Pemberton. So John Pemberton was the inventor of Coke, okay? But basically the logo was designed by Frank Mason Robinson, who was John Pemberton's, as I said, bookkeeper. And he decided that the 2 C's would look really great in advertising. So hence he came up with this logo in that old sort of Spencerian script, which is said to represent the sort of dominant form of handwriting in America during that era. But again, when we think of red, guys, okay, red evokes energy, it evokes passion, it evokes power. It's a very proactive color, okay? Red even evokes a sort of a visceral response. So it is said to increase heart rate, it's said to increase thirst and increase hunger. So hence you see red being used predominantly in fast food chains and fast food outlets as well, guys, to promote that, to stimulate that thirst and that hunger. It actually does influence us that heavily, would you believe? Okay. Number 5 then, getting a few people through their Facebook or LinkedIn. There's a few blues in there, guys. Number 5 is actually IBM. Again, a computer giant that they are, of course. And when we think of the color blue, okay, blue is said to represent things like trustworthiness, superiority, to represent confidence, okay, because as I just said, blue is a predominant favorite color by both males and females. But blue very much representative of that as well. By the way, anybody know who designed the IBM logo? Any ideas who designed the IBM logo? One of the greatest designers of all time. Anybody out there familiar with this? No one through no idea, says Selma. No, nobody out there yet. Okay, Paul Saul Bass, says Philip Campbell. Not quite, but again, another famous one. It was a guy called Paul Rand. That's P-A-U-L for Paul, R-A-N-D for Rand. And I would encourage you to look him up. One of the greatest designers of our time, guys, okay? Absolutely unbelievable. Okay, so just a second now, where are we? Okay, we're at number about 5 now. You're going to get this straight away, aren't you? Straight away, it's McDonald's, of course. Yeah, everyone's going to get that. Again, when we think about yellow, okay, yellow communicates hope, it communicates optimism, it's quite light, it's quite positive, it even says to simulate creativity as well, and obviously it's used to attract attention, okay? Yellow stimulates creativity and attention, and it's nice and bright, so it catches the customer's eye. It is simple as that as well, guys, okay? Canada says it's the colour of their burgers. Okay, fair enough. Okay, another blue then as well. A few more blues coming through now. And getting some Intel's, Facebook, Samsung. Who's up through with Samsung? Just missed it. Nermine, I think, out there. Very good. It is, of course, Samsung. Again, you're seeing blues, guys. Have you noticed you're seeing blues, especially when it comes to things like products and things like that? Okay, the Samsung are obviously Huge company, even though they've got a bit of flack lately for exploding things, but we won't get into that. But again, signifies things like trustworthiness, reliability. Well, that's out for debate. And again, the sort of commitment as well. So blue very much symbolizes all of that as well, guys. Okay. Okay, moving on then as well. What have we got next? I'll give you a hint, guys. This is the car brand. Any idea on the car brand this might be? Few people coming through. It is, of course, Justina, very quick through there with Toyota. It is indeed. And again, you will notice, by the way, guys, see how they use the color red. And we just described their red a few minutes ago when talking about Coca-Cola. The color red, again, evokes that visceral response, okay? It's all about power, it's about passion, about energy. So you will see a lot of car dealers using the color red in their branding as well, just because of this idea, all right? Calvin Freeman said Mitsubishi, the same thing. Yeah, exactly, guys. Okay, so you can see where they're going with this as well. Interesting one about Toyota, by the way. The original company was called Toyoda with a D instead of a T. But when it was written in their native script, it took eight. It basically took eight brushstrokes to when they converted to Toyota, and 8 is quite a lucky number in that culture. So I thought that was a little bit sort of quite interesting. Moving on, then getting lots of Twitters coming through. Moving on from that Skype logo, Twitter. Actually, none of them, even though it probably should be in there at the moment, but it is indeed actually GE, General Electric. I guess depending where in the world you are, you might not be familiar with this, but again, this study was conducted by Forbes and they're going by monetary value of the actual company, guys. So GE or General Electric, again using the color blue. You will see it again when we're talking about products, guys. Blue is very predominant. Again, representing commitment, excellence in service, trustworthiness of their products. So you'll see it used quite predominantly in that too as well, guys. And finally, everyone's going to get this one. Everyone's going to get this. It is, of course, Facebook. Don't need to go on that. You're going to get that through straight away. Again, blues. We know what blues mean by now. Just for all of my font nerds or type nerds out there, the lettering in Facebook, by the way, the actual type used is called Clavica. Well, it's actually a slightly modified version of the Clavica bold typeface as well. For all you font nerds out there, just wondering about that. And we will talk about it next week in lesson 7. Any ideas why it's all in lowercase? Any ideas why the Facebook insignia there is all in lowercase? Anybody any ideas on that? Who's coming through? Yeah, it is. Okay, guys. Well, basically because it's friendly. Claire Spears first through there, more friendly. Indeed. Lowercase we tend to find more friendly. It is simple as that. Okay, but we will look at that in more detail in lesson 7. One of my favourite lessons as well, our typography lesson. Massive area, and any designer worth their salt needs to know their typography, guys. You need to know and understand your typography. Probably one of the main areas of graphic design because we're using type and lettering in everything we do. So, guys, give me a yes or a no if you agree that the colours suit their brands, that they represent those brands quite well. What do you think? Okay, actually, just out of interest, anybody say any ideas? Is there anything there that you might change? Just going to throw it out there. Is there anything there that you might actually change, or any colours you think you might change that doesn't suit basically what I'm asking? A few people saying the GE logo doesn't suit. Okay, that's the main one, really, to be honest with you. Okay, yeah, people coming through with G. Yeah, interesting. I quite like the logo, to be honest with you. It's got those really nice interconnected letters. There's lots of motion and movement in the logo as well. Okay. I quite like it, but yeah, it's up for debate, I guess. Okay, quite interesting. So let's have a look now. So again, when you look at all those stats put together, here you can see it. Pay attention, guys. 33% for blue. I think we've definitely, achieved that. 29% for red, 27% for sort of grayscale, and only down to about 11% then for yellow. But again, the bottom there, 95% just 1 or 2 colors. Only 5% then with more than 1, and I think it is all ringing true there. It is all ringing true. But before we continue, there have been a few notable exceptions from this color wheel. So I'll go through them very quickly now as well. All right. Here we have, of course, everyone's going to get this good old Starbucks logo. But I just want to let you know what the green represents. Okay. Green is very much synonymous with wealth and health, by the way, but very much with serenity and prestige as well. So the Starbucks is quite an interesting one. It's gone through a lot of iterations over the years too. Way back in 1971, whereas that sort of coffee, rich chocolate colour, that chocolate sort of brown, representing coffee as well, of course. But you can see the iterations it's gone through over the years too. They actually got rid of all of their type to make it more generic worldwide. Because no matter maybe you're in a non-English speaking country, okay, if you just have a logo brand, it's going to be instantly recognizable. Okay, so quite interesting there as well. But like you said, when we talk about green, depending on the shades of it, can be very much associated with affluence, and the lighter shades then, if it's a lighter green, much more associated with sort of serenity then as well. Okay. Okay. Now, moving on then as well, another one of my favorite colors to use in design is actually purple. This one very, very much symbolizes, Neville is asking me a question, what does OR stand for below the logo? OR stands for, it's a registered company, and it's a registered trademark. So for example, when a company has TM first, the trademark stands for, or TM stands for trademark, it means that it is being put forward to be registered, all right? And then once they get that trademark, they are then registered then, okay? So just to avoid any confusion about that. Now, just a second now. So here we have the Hallmark, or the Hallmark logo, excuse me, yeah. And basically, the Hallmark actually slogan is, when you care enough, you send the very best. But the colour purple definitely supports this message because it implies royalty, it implies expense, and it is very sophisticated, okay? Which is then, obviously reinforced by the crown over the top. But the colour purple, guys, very much represents royalty, of course, sophistication, even sort of spirituality. Basically, because of this, essentially the colour purple, by the way, why it does this, the colour purple was very expensive to make. The actual dye was extremely expensive to make, so hence only the richer people in society, the more affluent people could actually afford it. So hence we associate with royalty and with spirituality and with the church as well. Neville again, who's that asking, how do you register a logo? Depending on where you are, depending on the country you are in, you will need to register it with the organizations in that field, okay? But it's different for different countries, okay? So I can't give you an exact answer on that, okay? But there are companies that will basically register and trademark your logo so that other people cannot use it, all right? Okay, so here we go, purple or pink this time. Getting to the end of it now, guys. Any ideas in this one? Yeah, a few people coming through there. Mattel, it is Barbie actually. Yeah, very, very good. Ismaili was straight through with that. When we think about pink, guys, pink is obviously very soft, it's very gentle, it's very feminine, quite optimistic as well. So, obviously very, very good for their particular logo, for Mattel's Barbie logo. In a nice sort of script there as well, guys. Quite elegant, playful sort of script feel to it too. But when we think of pink, we think of tenderness, of sensitivity, of sort of compassion as well, guys. Quite playful as well, so there's Katie out there as well. And then moving on from that, last one. Any ideas in this one? It is, of course, orange. And I've used the example of Nickelodeon for this because orange is a perfect colour choice for Nickelodeon, whose target audience is, of course, children. But it's light-hearted, it's youthful, it reflects the TV channel's programming. Okay, so the design of Nickelodeon then logo supports this youthful theme with sort of a paint-spattered backdrop and, of course, nice playful typography there too. But when we think about orange, we think about vitality, fun, playfulness, exuberance and youthfulness. That's what we associate with orange. But just an interesting one for you to make you aware as well. How do we get the colour orange? What makes up orange? It is, of course, red and yellow, guys. Yeah, it is, of course, red and yellow. So it will take on the characteristics of each of those colours. So we described red as quite energetic, as quite powerful, yellow is quite playful, okay, stimulating creativity as well. So when we create orange with these colours, it will take on the characteristics of the colours that it is made up out of. So just be aware of that. And the same rings true for every other colour as well, guys. The same thing rings true. So just bear that in mind as well. I want quicker now, just before we continue on. This is something we'll go into in much, much more detail in our advanced course as well, guys. Can everybody spot the hidden symbolism in this logo, by the way? Just going to throw it out there. Can everybody spot the hidden symbol? The arrow and the X, the arrow and the X. Okay, okay. Actually, can anybody not spot the hidden symbol? Just wondering about that. Me, okay, in case. So I'll point it out for you there, guys. Okay, this is what we call using negative space in logos and using in our logo designs. It is a very, very, very advanced topic, and like I said, something we do cover in more detail in our advanced course, but I just want to make you guys aware of it before we continue as well, guys, because, you know, it's a fantastic way to add interest to your designs as well, guys. Just make you aware of that. There's lots and lots of other ones out there. There's, for instance, like the Toblerone bars. We have a bear enclosed in the mountain. There's tons of them out there, but it's a very sophisticated, elegant way of designing too as well, guys. Subliminal there, says Nikki as well. Yeah, very, very true. Julia is asking, do you think the arrow was made on purpose? Julia, the answer is yes. Okay, it was definitely made on purpose. Don't get me wrong, you can fluke it sometimes and end up with some happy mistakes. But when this logo was designed, yes, that was the point of it. It was made on purpose. Carl is making the point of Amazon is another one. Indeed, indeed. Okay, so we're going to continue on now. Open up Illustrator in just 2 or 3 minutes. But when you guys are designing logos, okay, you're all here to learn, and hopefully you are learning along the way. But I want to make you aware of cliches. And I hate cliches, especially in logo designs. We're going to quickly go through cliches to avoid in logo design. Because logos are one of the trickiest areas in the graphic design world. I mean, it takes almost no talent to create a logo, all right? You can back me on that, all right? But this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good one. This is what I mean, guys. However, making a good logo requires a lot of insight, obviously a little bit of artistic skill and some patience. But too often we see designers falling into the trap of rushing into a logo design project and coming up with ideas that are really overused, complete oversaturation, and some of them quite cringy, to be honest with you as well. So these are some of the cliches that I've come across, and I implore you to avoid them, okay? Maj is asking, what is a cliche? It's just basically an overused idea. It's an overused idea that's been used to death, basically. So it was probably a good idea once, but we're so exposed to it now, it's lost all of its meaning as well in this, okay? So it's just basic things to avoid. Okay, because this is why you need to be unique, okay? Before we jump into some of the logo ideas that you might want to watch out for, I need to address this, okay? The question of exactly why you should be aware and avoid these cliches. Because this is why we create logos. This is at the core of why logos exist. Because from a branding perspective, a logo is the face of your company. When someone thinks about Nike, they think about the swoosh. Someone thinks about Coca-Cola, they see the brand. Someone thinks about Apple, they see the apple, okay? So the reason you remember these marks is that they are unique. And companies, trust me, will fight quite viciously to protect their brand and to protect their branding. So, you know, trust me, anytime anyone out there maybe gets close to, you know, maybe making their brand look a little bit like Apple or like Nike, trust me, their lawyers will be on them straight away. They protect that branding. They protect that branding. But this can happen. I made the point here of what I call destruction from within. Because a lot of companies, while they're willing to invest in their brand identity, you know, they can fall into the trap of maybe trying to rebrand or something like that. And sometimes this rebranding can actually come from within, okay, from people that actually work for the brand itself. These individuals have the power to completely destroy, you know, a long-held sort of visual legacy that a company might have. And these can be us as designers too, by the way, all right? Looking over the last couple of years, it's been filled with long-established brands, maybe trying to update their brand. I think of Gap was a complete disaster. There's a few others, you know, really negative feedback, just absolute disasters. So, guys, it is us as designers. You know, we have massive amount of power and public perception, okay? We have the power of that public perception. So you basically owe it to your customers to, you know, come up with some unique brands, okay? So let's have a quick look at the ones to avoid. We've all seen these, the good old sort of arc over the top. I mean, look around you guys, trust me, day to day you will see tons of these, even if you're just walking around the streets. The idea itself isn't a bad one, because the arc indicates progress and movement, even sort of soaring over the competition. It's symbolically, it's quite good, but it's just completely oversaturated now. It's lost all impact on us. Okay, so I mean, surely we can come up with better ideas in this day and age than a simple sort of swoosh over the top or arc over the top. Because you know, it's our job as designers. This is our job, you know, creating, you know, to attract, okay, and to create relatable visuals, not simply repeating ideas. Don't just repeat ideas. Another one is just using maybe fonts like good old Helvetica. If you type anything in Helvetica, it generally looks good. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, you know, this instantly looks like a logo. Okay, don't get me wrong, it's a great typeface. I use it quite regularly. You know, and it works quite well for a lot of things. But it's not just simply a question of typing out in the text and then calling it a logo as well, guys. So don't fall into this trap. Like I said, Gap did fall into this trap. Huge, huge brand. It was a massive fiasco. They spent hundreds of millions rebranding, and then they actually had to go back to their original. So, you know, it can be quite an expensive one too, guys. Again, on the other hand, not just Helvetica, try and avoid those sort of cliched sort of typefaces too. Here we have good old Papyrus, and we can see it associated with sort of nature spas and things like that. Completely overused. Would you agree with that, guys? Can we see these in day-to-day things? I think most people would agree with that, wouldn't you? Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, I think basically, but guys, I have a rule, okay? I have a rule. A designer's rule for using Papyrus should be this. You should only use Papyrus if you've only got two fonts on your computer and the other one is Comic Sans. That is the only time you should use Papyrus. Then we have these sort of ones that don't make any sense. I've seen a lot of these too. These sort of random coloured dots said to represent sort of like diversity and things like that. But the meaning is so vague. It is so vague that it's completely lost as well. Completely lost as well. Okay, so you know, don't fall into those traps of just being, you know, too vague either. Alright? This looks like the exact same as a million other logos out there. Again, falling into the trap of, I've seen a lot of these sort of social media icons coming into logo design too. Again, visually can be quite strong, but it's lost in the wash. Okay, there's too many of them out there. You need to stand out and be unique. So do try to avoid these sort of cliched icons as well in your logo designs too, guys. You know, definitely try to avoid that. One of the big ones, and trust me, we've all seen them, the good old double letter overlap. All right. I mean, you know, it can be used with almost any two capital letters, and trust me, anytime you have maybe a double L especially, you can bet good money that someone has come up with the idea of this sort of double overlap. Lots of law firms there, says Michelle out there too, estate agents and solicitors. Yeah, I mean, it's extremely generic. Countless non-designers come up with this idea, and I'm calling them non-designers. Guys, it's up to you to come up with something a lot better. All right? Okay, so like I said, guys, there's a theme there. The theme there in the cliched logos. What do you reckon was the overall theme of that? Any ideas in that? Basically, the answer is this: they're all very easy to replicate and to duplicate. Okay. The problem is many designers can't come up with capable ideas on themselves. They're just lazy, so they go to the quickest ones that burst out. Okay, and we discussed these in much detail, as I said, guys, how to come up with ideas as well in our advanced course, and how to get all those cliches out of our minds, out of our brains, so we've room then for creativity. Okay, so don't just rip off other ideas and things like that. Do try to come up with something unique. All right. So a quick one when you leave today, maybe have a look at what cliche logo ideas you have seen. Maybe start paying attention as well. Maybe you can get back to you can talk about this. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break now for a quick sip of water. I'm going to open up my Illustrator document. We're going to have a look at our workspace overview, opening the documents, combining shapes, coloring, applying effects, and looking at the difference of layers. After that, then we're going to creating some logos, guys. Okay, so everyone happy with that so far before we continue? Any questions on anything there so far, guys, before we continue? Okay, everyone is good there. Okay, thank you, guys. Can you just give me about 20 seconds, take a sip of water, and open up my Illustrator? Thank you. And we are back. Everyone can see it is my Illustrator screen. Yep. You can see it there. Yeah, okay, great. Well, guys, this is Illustrator. You're very, very welcome to it. Quickly, the differences again between Photoshop and Illustrator is that Illustrator is a vector-based drawing program. So the artwork is made up of mathematics. It's resolution independent, unlike Photoshop, which is basically a bunch of little dots or pixels. So we use Illustrator to create scalable artwork. For print, for web, it doesn't matter, guys. It's basically scalable artwork. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go up to File, going to go just new. We're going to open up a new document. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to call it Lesson 5. Doesn't really matter. Okay, and here you have some profiles then. So we have a profile for print, for web, lots of options there for you. For today, I'm going to stick with print. Because when I click on print now, you can see that my color mode automatically goes to CMYK because it's for print, of course. If I put that to web, it will go to RGB. And you'll notice then as well, my resolution goes down to 72 ppi. If I go to print, notice how it goes to high 300 ppi as well then as well, guys. I can select whatever size I want. I can go for basic A4, for example. I can set my points. I usually work in millimeters, to be honest with you. For print, you can work in points. It's up to yourselves. If you're working for the web, of course, it would be in pixels. Okay, so simple as that. I generally tend to work in millimeters. Okay, we're not going to talk about our bleeds and things like that today because we will be discussing that in lesson 10, guys. Okay, we're discussing that all about that in lesson 10, and you can then simply set your orientation from either portrait or landscape, either for screen. And for the benefit of you guys, I'm just going to set it to landscape for today and simply click OK. Again, it doesn't really matter a lot because of course your artwork is scalable. And it's vector based in Illustrator, guys. Okay, so don't be yes, you can change it at a later stage. Renette is asking, you can change it at a later stage, okay, by simply going down to your document setup as well. Okay, so you can see that there, you can change at a later stage. Okay, quick tip as well, guys. I'm just going to zoom in for a second. Don't forget, you will see it in your toolkit video too. We've gone through this, but hold down your space bar and you can drag around your area there. Okay, few things I am going to go through today now, first of all, guys. Basically, any Adobe application, if you're familiar with one, the rest of them fall into the same sort of vein. So we have our top menu, we have our options bar, which will change, of course, depending on the tools we use over in the tools bar over here. Guys, obviously don't have time to go through each of these tools. I recommend them in your own time. Do refer to your shortcuts as well in your graphic design starter pack for what each of these tools does as well, guys. They're all explained in there as well. Okay. But guys, like I said, if you're familiar with Photoshop, you will be familiar with Illustrator once you open it up as well. Okay? But few things I want to make clear how it is slightly different to Photoshop, and that is in its use of layers. So I'm going to start drawing out some elements. Okay? By the way, up here, guys, some people get confused with this. We have our fill and we have our stroke. Our fill means is the color or the fill of our shapes. Stroke is basically the outline of our shapes. So I'm actually going to draw out some shapes. I'm going to select rectangle tool and I'm going to set my color. I'm just going to go nice and bright and red, and I'll set my stroke, say, to blue, for example, for the purposes of demonstration. And actually simply then click and drag out my square or rectangle. If you hold shift, just like a circle, it will make it into a square, a perfect square. Okay, so you can see here then, guys, here I have my square on my screen. You can see my blue stroke and my red fill. I can actually increase my stroke by clicking on my stroke points there, make it nice and thick if that is my want. Okay, I can even change the type of stroke. Okay, I'm just going to go with uniform for today, guys. That's me drawing a basic square. Okay, I'm now going to draw a basic circle. Alright, so again, under my ellipse tool, Nirvana is asking, can you transfer images from Photoshop to Illustrator? Yes, you can. And if you in lesson 6, which is your next Illustrator lesson, your on-demand lesson, I teach you how to do that too in lesson 6 as well, guys. Next, I'm going to draw a circle. Okay. Oh, my bad. I hadn't that unselected. So Control Z. So click my circle, my ellipse tool. Again, guys, simply mouse over. If you cannot find them, simply mouse over. You will see where they are then. Next is ellipse tool. I'm going to change my color this time for my ellipse so you know the difference. And this time again, simply click and drag. click and drag anywhere, and I can draw out my ellipse, hold down shift to constrain those proportions, and now I have a perfect circle. Okay, simple as that. And again, I can drag it over. You'll see here though, guys, this is the difference in layers, just before we continue. You'll see I just have one layer over my layers panel. Okay, I've got two different shapes on my layer, and I can grab them individually. I still have two shapes on the one layer. But if you click down, basically Illustrator is creating sub-layers for you. So that is the main difference. Illustrator is actually creating sub-layers for you. So for example, if I drag my rectangle layer above my ellipse layer now, you'll see that my rectangle layer comes to the front. Okay, and the same things applies, guys. The same things applies. You can, of course, add in new layers. So simply add in another layer. This time I'll create a different shape for you to see. But all of the same principles apply. This time I'll draw a completely different shape altogether so you can see. So this is now on layer 2, which is obviously above all of my other layers. But I can, of course, even drag that down into my layers panel down here. And now you can see it's above my rectangle, but it's below my circle. So that is the difference in layers on how Illustrator uses layers as opposed to Photoshop. Okay. Okay, Rowan is asking, from where can I have the pink guidelines? Okay, so if you go up to View, in View, you'll see I have my Smart Guides turned on, which are very handy, very powerful. So Control plus U under View will turn on your Smart Guides. This basically means that it will help me align my elements. So if you see there, you can see my little pink lines are turning on. It's helping me align all of my elements together. These are called your Smart Guides, and they are under View. Now, okay, so before we move on, is everyone clear on the difference now and how layers work in Illustrator? Yes? Are indeed. Okay, great. And again, because they're vectors, guys, you can go in and you can edit any of these after the fact. Okay, if they're too small, too big, you can simply just click on them, move them around the screen. It is very, very different to Photoshop in that regard, where you'll actually need to use your selection tools to select your actual images. Okay, going to get rid of these again for a second. Okay, we're going to create a logo in about 2 minutes. I just want to do one or two more things here just to show you now as well, guys, okay? This time now I'm going to draw out a circle again. So draw out a basic circle, hold down shift, draw out a basic circle is fine on my screen there. I'm going to draw out a rectangle this time. Okay, just click my rectangle tool this time, draw a rectangle. I'm actually going to try and position them in the center. You can see my guides turning on there. Thank you, Illustrator, for that. In the center. And I'm going to click and hold. I can drag out my next shape then as well. I'm happy with that. Because what I'm going to do now, I want to introduce you to these guys. These are very powerful. And this is one of the main things I want to get through to you today. Is using, and we use them by the way in your toolkits video too, guys, to show you how to use these. But I'm going to introduce you to what we call our shape modes. Okay, shape modes are very, very powerful. I'm going to actually turn them off for a second. They're under your Pathfinder, so if you cannot see them, go up to Window, okay, and go down to Pathfinder and turn them on there, and they will come in here for you. But our shape modes here are very powerful. This is what I'm going to do. I have two distinct shapes here. I'm actually going to just color my square different colors so it stands out for you guys. Okay, Cecilia is asking, can you only import vector images into Illustrator? No, you can also import photographs, and you can actually vectorize them within Illustrator. And again, in lesson 6, which is your on-demand lesson, which will be available Friday, I show you how to do this, Cecilia, also. Okay, it's very, very powerful. Here I have two distinct shapes, a circle and a square. With my Pathfinder tool though, under my shape modes, I have lots of options here. I can actually, and again, don't forget, if you simply mouse over and let it sit there for a second, they will tell you exactly what to do. So I've got exclude, for example, will exclude the area that they overlap. I want to undo that again, simply Control Z. I can then intersect, which just gives me the shape that is intersecting. Okay. I also have then what we call minus front and back. So we'll basically minus the front from the back area, so create a sort of a Pac-Man image there straight away. Quite powerful. And then finally I have what we call Unite, and this is what we want to use today, is called Unite. Dennis is asking which version of Illustrator is this. This is Illustrator CC. For all the Adobe applications I use, it is the newest versions, which is the Adobe CC or Creative Cloud. But here I've just created a brand new shape just by using a circle and a square. I can resize that, I can rotate it round, I can do whatever I like. I'm actually going to rotate it round. Simply grab the corner, rotate it round. Again, if you hold down Shift, you will constrain those proportions. And there you go. Okay, so I have a nice sort of shape here now, moving along quite nicely. Again, I can recolor this. I can click into it. For example, I can make my yellow, I can make it blue. I can change the color. I can change the color of my stroke to whatever I like. Nice pink. You can, of course, also, by the way, guys, change your colors down here in your color pickers, in your fill. So double click into it, and you can select any color that you would like. Okay, so simply click OK. Do the same thing for your stroke. Click into it, and you can change the color as well to whatever you like there, guys. All right. One thing to remember, though, guys, if you don't want a stroke or a fill, you can simply get rid of them. So do you know what this little red line means? It just means none. Okay, it just means none. So there's no fill. So if I click that, I get now just a shape, just an outline with no color inside it. Okay, and I can change that back again. And the same thing with the stroke. If I don't want any stroke, I can set it to none. Okay, so just get rid of the stroke. I now have just my fill. All right. And again, like I said, guys, with your stroke, you can make it as thick or as thin as you like, simply by selecting then as well. All right. Okay, so everyone happy with that so far? Yeah, good. All right. So one or two more things before I continue on now. I just want to show you as well. We've just, I've shown you how to add color and everything in that there. Next one I'm going to do is maybe I don't want to add color. I want to make it a gradient instead. So I can simply click in now into my color there, and I'm going to go over and just click on my gradient over here. And again, if you cannot see your gradient, simply go up to Window and go down to Gradient. But I'm going to click into my gradient this time, and I can simply apply a gradient to it then instead of a straight color, guys. Okay, instead of a straight color. Okay, and of course you can change that to linear or radial gradient, whatever you like. And again, you have lots of options to change your gradient, change the colors of your gradient down here too. I'm going to apply just a straight linear gradient for now. Okay. And also, like I said, guys, you have lots more options too, guys. So you can change the colors, double click. They will open up. Now, a quick one, just in case you get this comes up, you can just see black and white. If you get that error, click on the little drop down and change that to CMYK. And then you will get all of your color regions down there then too. And you can pick whatever color you like. Okay, doesn't matter as well. Doesn't matter as well. Shuan's asking, when are gradients used for logos? You shouldn't generally use gradients in logos, to be quite honest with you, because they won't print very well. I'm going to color in my gradient this time. I want to make it a nice silver. Okay, so I'm going to color in my gradient here. Again, because I know the values, I know exactly what I want. That's just the way I am. But here I've got a nice sort of silver gradient going from left to right. If you wanted to reverse this, you can simply, at your gradient, click your gradient tool over here, and you can simply move that then to whatever direction you want, from side to side, from top to bottom. It doesn't matter, guys, okay? But that is how you achieve that look then as well. But you do have lots of control over here as well. So for example, if I want the angle of my gradient to go, say just a straight 60 degrees from top to bottom, and I can even then move the location of my gradient. So I can actually move it to say about 60% or so, and I can see that the gradient now is sort of starting as we move down there. Okay, how to make it horizontal? You can simply, again, I'll do it again. I'm going to click off for a second. Click on your gradient. Okay, so making sure it's selected. Click on your gradient tool over here. Click on that, and you can simply drag down. So drag from horizontal or drag up from top to bottom. It doesn't matter. That is how you apply the angles as well. So click on your gradient tool and simply click and drag to whatever angles you like. Okay? Okay, you can see, yeah, okay, that's great. Okay, perfect. So like I said, guys, there I have A nice sort of a gradient there for myself. Happy enough with that. And bring that back. But you know, you've absolutely tons and tons and tons of control over this, guys, alright? There's a basic gradient. Maybe I want to set my stroke now to maybe white, maybe bring it down a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually apply an effect to this now. So I'm going to select over my little shape there, going to go to effect, and maybe just want to apply a little bit of a drop shadow. A little bit of a drop shadow, say, under stylize. Again, guys, you have loads of effects under your effects panel. Haven't got time to go through them all. Please check them out in your own time. So simply a little bit of a drop shadow. Click on preview. Okay, and you can see there then my drop shadow is now applied to that, and I can blur that out a little bit more if I want to, increase the blur. I can change the X and Y offset of it if I want, depending on where I want it to go, for example. So move it to the left or to the right or up or down, whatever you would like. Okay, so you get the idea there, guys. You can see that you can even change the opacity and everything, guys. You've got absolutely tons of control, absolutely tons of control. And simply you can even change the color of your drop shadow. But that's how you basically apply an effect to any of your images too. So there we go, guys. Anybody recognize this shape? Yeah, it is indeed a teardrop icon from my lessons. It is indeed. That's how I created it, guys. Very, very simply. A few basic steps. Okay, so let's go on now. We've got a few minutes left. Let's go on now and actually create a brand new logo now from scratch, guys. I'm going to create a brand new logo from scratch. Okay, so just give me a second again, and I'll take a quick sip of water and be back to you in just about 30 seconds or so. Okay, and we are back again. Again, just making sure everyone can see. Just a second, Christo is asking, is the drop shadow raster or vector? It will still be vector, Christo. So anything you create using the tools in Illustrator will be vector, which is quite cool as well. Do you export this logo as a ping, Christoph is asking? Yes, you can export under File. You have the option to save that as a ping as well. And if you want, you can even simply copy it and paste it into Photoshop and do the same thing. Photoshop is great for changing those, changing your file types, so you can actually save it as a ping in Photoshop as well if you want. Okay, so and again, people ask about the best way to save it. Okay, I'm just going to go back to my original. So a few different options. You can go File. Okay, the original option will of course be a .ai. It will be a .ai, which is a native Illustrator format. For logos, then you can also save as a .eps, would be the generic standard print format for logos. So .eps. But you also, of course, can save it as a PDF, as an SVG for web, for example, too. But again, very simply, if you want to, you can simply just drag across. Oh, sorry, I zoomed in there. My bad, excuse me. You can simply even copy and paste it directly into Photoshop, and you can save it maybe as a JPEG or as a ping then as well. So very simply, you can literally drag it, copy it. You can open up Photoshop. If mine opens up here, sorry, my Photoshop is not open, guys. But for example, you can go File, New in Photoshop. You can go OK. It will actually make it the dimensions that you want. And you can simply Control V. Generally, paste it as a smart object, and we'll discuss those now in our advanced course too, guys. Place it, and then from there then you can save it as a ping. Turn off your background. You can save it as a ping for web or whatever you like, guys. The exact same process. Okay, everybody clear on that so far? Okay, just making sure. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so back to my Illustrator now, just a few minutes before we finish up. Okay, great. So very quickly now, Sorry, my Illustrator screen has stalled here because Photoshop is working in the background. This is a very simple logo, guys, we're going to create today, alright? S for show and good old graphic design. But I'm going to show you how to create this by just using a few very, very basic shapes. Obviously, sort of a semicircle shape. It is simple as that as well, alright? Okay. What's an SVG file for, please? Lisa's asking. SVG is basically vector files for the web. They can be used on the web. Okay, Lisa? Now, there's a very simple logo we're going to create today, guys. I'm going to just push this out of the way, up to the corner. Don't need it for now. But I'm going to create this by just using semicircles. And the idea I'm trying to get across is you can come up with some quite nice designs just using basic shapes. And this is what it should look like. So I'm going to create a circle. Ellipse tool again. I'll make it nice and red for everybody to see. I don't need any stroke. I'm going to set my stroke to none. Simple as that. So that's it. So I'm going to draw out my circle. Again, doesn't really matter even about sizes for now, to be honest with you. Make it nice and big as well. Put it wherever I want, it doesn't really matter. There I have a basic circle, but I want a semicircle. Now there's a few different ways to get a semicircle. I could cut, or there's a few different options, but from the tools we're using today, I'm going to use my shape modes. So at this time I'm going to draw a rectangle now. I'm going to draw out my rectangle, and you can see my smart guides, see my pink lines there are kicking in. So I know now that is the exact center of the circle. I know that's the exact center. So I'm simply going to select my two shapes now, and I'm going to go minus front and back. So minus front. And there we go, guys. I now have a perfect semicircle. Quick one now, I'm going to copy and paste this. A few different ways to do this. Simply Control C, Control V. Okay, that's one way. But another handy way is if you hold down Alt, and simply just drag out then. Holding Alt and dragging out, you can see my cursor changing. See my cursor changing there? It's actually making a copy of that for me, which is quite handy. Next thing I'm going to do then is I'm just going to rotate this around. Okay, rotate this around. So simply dragging the corner, rotate it around, hold down Shift to constrain those proportions, and I've now rotated it around. Now I'm going to put that into position. And again, you can see my smart guides kicking in here. You can, of course, use your eye or use other ways to guide this, but your smart guides are quite handy, so that's what I'm using. And I can put it into position there, and there we go. It is now intersecting in the exact position. Very handy. So there you have my basic shape, first of all. I'm now going to copy that, Control C, Control V, for my second shape. And again, one would think that I could actually simply rotate this around for my center, but it's actually a bit like a palindrome. It's the same from the front as it is from the back. So I'm going to have to actually reverse this. So I'm going to go up to Object, and I'm going to go to Transform, and I'm simply going to go Reflect. It's going to reflect my object now. Your Options panel will come up. Click your Preview, and I can see there now it's reflected vertical at 90 degrees. Okay, you have lots of options there as well, guys, but that's exactly what I wanted. Reflect vertical at 90 degrees and click OK. Okay, going to push him into place. Okay, and then finally Control V for my final section and push him into place. So very, very, very straightforward. Now it's a little bit blocky. Okay, just like, so I'm going to take a note out of Paul Rand's IBM logo. Just going to move up. I'm going to create a little bit of space between my elements there then as well. Give it a little bit more room to breathe. And finally then, just before you finish now, okay, you'll see on my original logo I have 3 parts per tower, okay, but on this one I only have 2. So the next tool we're going to use is a very powerful tool as well, called our Shape Builder tool. Okay, Shape Builder tool. So what this does is I can actually cut out shapes from my designs. But I'm going to select my top area first. I'm going to go over. I'm going to click on my Shape Builder tool. And you'll notice now I can actually hover over shapes where they're intersecting. So if I click now on my center one, you can see it's highlighted there. If I click in there now, okay, I've now created a new shape from my Shape Builder tool. So now that is a separate shape. I'm going to color it in a different color for you to see. Okay, there we go. It's just very, very powerful as well, guys. Okay, so it's just a very handy tool to get used to as well. I'm just going to do the same thing for the rest of them. Shape, maybe colored in blue. Oh, my bad. Select it there, make sure it's selected. paint a different color, and finally the same thing for my bottom line. Okay, now one more trick that I want to show you as well is your eyedropper tool is very, very powerful in this setup too. Okay, you can see here I've sort of taken a bit of time to sort of come up with my color scheme as well. Okay, taking a bit of time to come up with my color scheme. So maybe you can do it at the start yourselves. And what you can do is if you can simply select an area that you want to color. So for example, my first area here, with your eyedropper tool, just like in Photoshop by the way, it's to select colors, but your eyedropper tool will also take on the properties as well. Okay, so click on my eyedropper tool and simply click on the area that you want to cover and it will take on those characteristics. It's very, very, very powerful. Okay, and will save you a lot of time too as well by the way guys. So very simply clicking on all these, coloring them in. So I have my colors pre-selected. You can of course just change your color manually if you want. Double click, open up your color picker, you can select whatever color you want. Doesn't really matter at all. Okay, go for a nice luminous green, make everyone blind. But you can see the power of it guys, it's very, very handy. Okay, so I'm going to quickly do that. And the final thing now before the Q&A is we're going to put in our text. And again guys, in your toolkit video I've explained how to put text on a path and lots of different options in there for you too, so you can have a look at that for all your toolkit buyers out there. So getting through here and same thing, and we are done. That was just a very simple shape and learning how to combine it to create something simplistic enough but I think stands out quite well guys. Okay, now the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, drag over, right click, and I'm going to group it, because if I didn't group it I could end up maybe moving things apart or maybe make a mistake. That won't work at all. So I'm going to group it all together, drag over, right click and group. Now that makes everything into one. Katie is saying I'm not seeing the shape modes toolbar. Okay, if you go up to window, okay, and Pathfinder, and once you open your Pathfinder, your shape modes will come up in here then as well. Okay, so that is where they are. Now Anna is asking, is it possible to select a few areas to color them one at a time? Well, that's just what we did there, Anna. Yeah, so I can ungroup that again, and you can select any area. I can change that to whatever color I want. So that's how you do that. You can select all individual areas there then too. Yeah, no problem with that. So simply then add in your text. Going to click my type tool. Set my text to, I forget what it was called. I think it was Gotham, I think I actually used for that. Not 100% sure actually, but it'll do for now. And I can simply type in my text then. So GRAPHICDESIGN. But this is a very cool as well guys, okay? Because what I can do is, as well as coloring in my colors with my eyedropper, I can even use it to do my text as long as it's not broken, and I'll explain that now in just a second. But what I can do is I can click my text here with my eyedropper now selected. I can actually click on my original text and I will change it to that as well guys. So that is very, very powerful as well and quite handy if you're working off someone else's design or something like that too. And again, because it's vector, I can simply scale my text then as well. Hold down your shift to constrain your proportions and scale your text then as well. Alright, so very, very cool. So the final thing I do with my text guys is I'm going to what is called break apart or outline my text. The reason I break apart or outline my text is to create an image out of the text so that no matter what computer you open up your logo on, the text will never change. It will always look the same. Bear in mind, when you do this, you will not be able to edit the text afterwards. So guys, always have a copy to hand basically, okay? So for example, now you can see I can click into my text, I can edit it. I can go, hello, okay. I can edit it now, right? But once I select my text now, so I select it, right click and create outlines, you'll see then it's created a graphic out of my text. It's made my text now an image and I cannot now go back and re-edit it. So just make sure it's correct guys. But the reason we break it apart or create outlines of our text is so that it will open up the same on every machine and print correctly as well. Alright? Just a second now. Someone asking what's the name of that font. Okay, interesting one. It is called League Gothic. Sorry, I was getting confused. I thought it was Gotham, but it's called League Gothic, which is a free font, by the way, guys. League Gothic. You can see it up here on my screen. Is the name of that font. Okay, guys, I think that is basically it for today. And again, like I said, in our advanced course, we'll be looking into sort of more 3D techniques. Once you start getting better, you can start adding some nice effects and shadows and things like that to it. Cope with these type of designs also, guys, okay? But as I said, we need to get the basics under our belt first before we continue on with a lot of these techniques as well, folks. All right? So again, that's it. I'm going to just open up for the Q&A now in just a second. Take a sip of water first, folks. Thank you. So just double checking again what we went through there, guys. We looked at basic Illustrator in the workspace, how to color, how to apply effects. We looked at the differences in our layers. We then looked at drawing shapes using the Pathfinder tool, rotating and aligning our objects. Then we used our Shape Builder tool. We learned how to color, how to add text, grouping our objects together, and then we looked at saving then as well, guys, in the saving format. So, okay. So great. So don't forget, guys, again, do share your work on the hashtag Shaw Graphics. So if you want to come up with your own logo ideas, please do share them there. Maybe save them as a ping or as a JPEG to share them online, of course. But do share the hashtag Shaw Graphic, and there's been some brilliant image composites up there that you've been creating. So do have a look at those. I've looked at them at myself, been very, very impressed. Lesson 6, by the way, guys, is your next lesson, which is your on-demand lesson, and we go through the pen tool, we go through how to image trace, both manually and automatically, how to create brushes. So that will be available for you Friday. Do not miss out on that lesson. There's lots of really, really good Illustrator techniques in there for you as well, guys. Okay. So we're going to go on with the Q&A. Don't forget, guys, well, if you enjoyed the lesson, please give us a big high five. If you enjoyed today's lesson, we do value your feedback. Guys, so 5, the highest, way down to low is the lowest. So I do value your feedback on that too, guys. Okay, so let's continue on now with the Q&A. Just give me a second to open up my boxes here. Claire is asking a question. What message do pastel colors give? Do they vary for the color, or are they all the same? Well, generally, obviously, Claire, pastels, females find pastels are what we call tints of colors, much more pleasing because they're lighter in color, so you'll see them associated with sort of baby products, female products. Males prefer stronger shades of colors. When we add black to colors, males prefer that. Again, depending on the context they're used, but pastels will generally work together quite well also. So because they're quite lighter too, it doesn't really matter an awful lot because they're quite light, unless you're combining them with a much stronger, maybe accent color then as well, Claire. All right. Okay, just a second now. Any professional font name you suggest? I'm not sure what you mean by unprofessional font name. Maybe websites you mean. So myfonts.com would be a brilliant resource for professional fonts. You do have to pay for them, unfortunately, but they are very, very good. Where do you turn on smart guides? Daniel is asking. So your smart guides, Daniel, are under your view, and they're down then under smart guides. Control and U will also turn them on. It's a shortcut for them. So smart guides, under view, and control and U. Okay, again, guys, please, I'm getting lots of questions, but please try and keep them relevant to today's lesson if you can, guys, as well. Dylan is asking what you think about flat design. We actually discussed flat design in the advanced course, Dylan. I'm a fan of it, but it depends on the type of design it is also, and it is actually evolving. Okay, is Illustrator only used for logos? Not just for logos, for any type of graphic artist work, Premi. Okay, but we use it for logos because it's vector based and we can scale to any size. Just a second now. Liz Clay is saying, I thought your logo had been made using transparencies to get the color variation. Is there any reason to avoid using transparencies? Yes, Liz, do avoid using transparencies, especially in logos and especially for print, okay, because you will get unexpected results. Okay, generally printers actually won't even accept transparent colors. If you've got a good printer, they will actually ask you to change them. So don't use transparencies when it comes to printing, especially because you will get unexpected results that you mightn't, you might think it looks like one color. When it gets printed, it will look totally different. Okay, so you just have more control over it. Just a second now. How do you, Joseph Moore is asking, how do you group using a Mac One mouse button? Okay, okay, so basically you can right click. So it's essentially a right click, Joseph. I think with the new Mac buttons though, you can actually, with new Mac mouses, you can right click. It does give you the option as well. Okay, so there you go. Just a second now as well. But you can, even if you go up to object, if you go up to object here, you'll be able to group them in there too as well. Okay, so you see object and group is there for you and ungroup is there too, Joseph. All right. Okay, just a second now. How can I, Gada is asking, how can I reveal ping to AI file, please? You mean how can you convert ping to an AI? Depending on the ping, okay, you can convert to a vector graphic, but it sort of depends on the ping that you're working with. And if you look at lesson 6, I teach you how to both manually trace objects and then automatically also trace objects. So this would be a way to do that, to convert images into AI or vector files, but it will depend on the original, okay? Ibrahim is asking, should we avoid gradient colors in logos? Again, Abraham, it's maybe fine if it's be displayed on screen. They will always look good on screen. But when it comes to printing, gradients, you will get discrepancies, okay? Unless, you know, you've set up correctly and you've got a good printer and a good relationship with them, you can get some nice results. But generally, it is said it is best to avoid gradients in logos. Again, generally for print, if it's based on screen, you can get away with them, all right? Just a second now as well. Can we use Illustrator to design a poster? Sammy is asking. Of course, yeah, of course you can use Illustrator to design anything you like, you know, and you've actually got even much more control over your elements in Illustrator than you would in Photoshop. Illustrator is a design tool, okay? Remember guys, Photoshop is a sort of an editing tool, but Illustrator is definitely a design tool, all right? Just a second. Wiley says that's basically answered my question as well. Okay. Wilna is asking an interesting question. She says, I'm hoping that there is an app that can show you what color you will get when you combine two to skip the transparency as well. Well, again, you can use your color picker, Wilna. Okay, so you can maybe create your transparencies, overlap them. Now, again, bear in mind you will get some different results on the screen, but then you could perhaps use your color picker, use your eyedropper tool, maybe even copy them and paste them into Photoshop if you needs be. Use your eyedropper tool or color picker to select to go with the color then as well. Okay. Paulina is asking, is it possible to achieve a 300 ppi file if it was not created in this resolution and changed into an RGB file? It's not possible to scale up, Paulina. No matter what, no matter how much CSI investigation, all those programs you watch where they can magically boost up the resolution that you can see, you know, a pin in the corner of the field. It doesn't work that way. You cannot scale up from a bitmap file up to a 300 ppi file. You can scale down, of course, okay, but no, unfortunately you won't be able to scale up. Now, if you look at lesson 6 as well, Paulina, I do show you ways to trace your bitmap images or your raster images into vectors, okay, so that might be an option depending on the image and depending on the graphic, okay. Premi is asking, can we add an image to the logo? Depending on what you mean, again, Premi, I generally tend to avoid logos that are very heavy on detail because they won't work well. So when they scale down, okay, they will just look like a blur. So keep them simple, guys. Keep them simple. Okay. Dennis is asking, can I convert the stroke to fill and the fill to stroke? You can, of course, Dennis, very, very simply. Okay. So for example, if I draw I'm going to set my colors first. They say, oh, my bad, I hadn't selected. Control Z that. So first of all, I'm going to select a square, for example, 2 colors, nice bright pink for the fun of it, why not? And maybe a nice blue then as well. So what I'm going to do now, draw a square. Okay. I'll make the stroke a little bit bigger so you can see, Dennis. And you can see here I have my square. My fill is set to pink. And my stroke is then set to sort of the darker sort of purple mauve there as well. So if you click on it, and if you just reverse these, so simply swap or fill stroke. You can see it there, the little arrow. So swap or fill, and that will do exactly that for you. Okay? Now, Okay, just a second. How do you change the font using your eyedropper tool? Simply click on it. Delia's asking. So with the eyedropper tool, simply click on have your original font selected that you want to change, and then click on the one that you're trying to copy with your eyedropper tool. Just a second now as well. Okay, hang on a second now, guys. Just as Lama is asking, all logos you showed us was in a white background. Is white the formal color? Well, it was on a white background because that's the default for my for my artboard there at the back, Lama. Okay, so there's no particular reason. I could put on a different background if you wanted, but white is the generic. This isn't white. It's actually transparent. There's no background there, Lama. Okay, so just to make you aware of that, there's no particular reason white is used. Okay. Peter says, thank you for an awesome lesson. You're more than welcome, Peter. Thank you very much. Sabrina is asking, do we create more logos in the advanced course? We do indeed, Sabrina, as well. And we'll go into much more detail on our color theory, things like our negative spacing logo, how to combine our fonts with our logos as well. So obviously, Sabrina, this is the foundation course. It's aimed at beginners, but for anybody here, whether beginner or intermediate, I hope you're learning something as well as we go along. But yes, we go into much more detail in that in the advanced course, Sabrina. Okay? Just a second now. Yeah, so people ask about assignments. Yes, so guys, remember lesson 6, which is your on-demand lesson, your next on-demand lesson, will be in your student area on Friday, along with your little questionnaire will be in there for you too. Okay, just like last time. These are just optional, guys, but they're good practice for your final exam. The little questionnaires are good practice for your final exam as well, guys. And like I said, guys, I encourage you now, come up with your own logo ideas. Do share them with the hashtag #ShawGraphic or hashtag #ShawGraphicDesign as well, guys. And you can see what everyone else is doing out there too. Don't forget to, I said in lesson 1 and 2, have a look at our YouTube channel too, guys. There is a Shaw Academy graphic design YouTube channel, so please check that out as well, because I do post weekly videos up there too as well, guys. So have a look at that too as well, guys. Okay. Okay, Nikki Hayes says, thanks for another great lesson, another 5 for sure. Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, guys, again, don't forget to rate the lesson. It's about basically the content and delivery. So if you enjoy the lesson and the content and delivery of the lesson, give us a good old high five there. Makes me look good over here. Okay, just a second now as well. One more question before we go. Pauline is asking, is there a default for graphic designers to see colors on the screen as similar as possible to Pantones? Quite an advanced subject there, Paulina, but you can select in Adobe. You do have your Pantone libraries. Okay, so you can select your Pantone libraries in there too as well. So for example, if I open up my colors there and I open up a swatch library, okay, in my color books, I do have my Pantone libraries in there too. So you can see them in there, you can select them. So I can select, say, my Pantone CMY coated, and it will then open up my library for me there. My Illustrator has stopped working for a second, it's crashed, but that's where you get them from basically, okay? Katie's asking, can you freehand draw in Illustrator? Yes, Katie, and we look at that in lesson 6. So please check out lesson 6 where we look at the pen tool and learning how to freehand draw and trace in Illustrator too. All right. Kiona is asking, if you get the toolkit, you get the recordings definitely. You get the bonus videos, Kiona. Okay, it's your toolkits you get forever. And of course, any recordings in your toolkits you get indefinitely. Unfortunately, you don't get the recordings of the live webinars here. They will run out for non-members. Okay, if you're a member, of course, you will have them indefinitely. Okay. Okay, guys, I think that is it for tonight. Just one more thing, Samuel again is asking, so I can't remove that white background and just have the logo? Again, just to clear that up, Samuel, before we finish, there is no white background there. For example, if I scale out here, okay, if you save this as an EPS now or wherever it is, there will be no white background. I'm just seeing white. So for example, if I drag my logo off the screen, you can see there is no white background, everything else will be transparent. You're just seeing white there because it's the actual background of the Illustrator screen itself. Okay, so that is why. Just to make that clear. Mustafa is asking, can we rescale elements in new file size? Can we rescale elements in new file size? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if they're vectors, and if you keep them as vectors, you can rescale anytime you want. Open up the file, close the file, it doesn't matter, all right? Steve Miser is asking, can you use the eyedropper tool to sample colors from other programs open in Windows? No, Stephen, they will need to be open in the same document. But there's nothing to stop you maybe even doing a screen grab or something like that. Save it as a JPEG and then bring it in. Okay, and then you can use your eyedropper within the same program, if that makes sense. All right, and don't forget, Illustrator will actually open up PDFs as well, Stephen, depending on how they're made. All right. Jory's asking, does the eraser tool work the same as in Photoshop? Slightly different, Jory, as well. Okay. Slightly different because it's vector based, but generally along the same lines. But you sort of cut out the area that you want, and then you can use your eraser tool. Okay. Just a second now. Okay, guys, I think that's it. We have run over again. Lots and lots of questions. Lots and lots of questions coming through. So I have tried to get to as many as I possibly could, guys, as well. If I did miss any, don't forget to send them through to that graphic.design@Shaw Academy address that you see on the screen in front of you. Christine, a quick question. I can only find Illustrator as part of the Creative Cloud. How do I find it? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Christine. If you go onto adobe.com, they're all there for you. Okay, so go onto adobe.com. They're all there for you. Okay. Okay, I think that is it, guys. So thanks a million. Like I said, if I did miss anything, don't forget to check out lesson 6, which will be available Friday. Join us back next week for lessons 7 and 8. We'll be giving away that lifetime membership. Lesson 7, typography. You do need to know your typography. I cannot over exaggerate or exaggerate that as much to you guys. You do need to understand your typography, so do join us for that. Okay, and like I said, for your toolkit people, have a look at your bonus video. Is in there for you now as well, guys, too. All right, so that's it for me for tonight, guys. Thanks for staying with us as well, and I'll see you all back here next week. For now, this is Kevin, and I am designing off. Bye bye.